No. These statements I haven't looked at it yet. What was to the extent? What was it? The Philosophes, how were they revolutionary, right?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. What did you think?
I thought they were, but only when they were actually when they were actually suggesting new ways of government, not when they were worried about just more.
Okay. Um, get these good people in. I'm going to today. I don't think you really need to have your computer. I mean, you can probably. Well, it depends on how you take notes. But it's gonna be a little more discussion-based notes, so you can write down what you want to. What? FR? French Revolution. Let's do this real quick. This is a red day, right? Yeah. So we got Lily, Hannah, Lucy, Ashton, no. Stanley, no. Kim, yeah. Samuel, and Brooke. All right. There we go. All right, Zoomers, welcome. Here's how we're going to start class today. I'm going to put a slide up on the screen, and I want you to take 2 or 3 minutes to try to connect all of these together in some kind of like a flow chart like fashion. So I think I shared the wrong thing. 1 second. I did. That's what I want you to see. Okay, are you guys looking at a PowerPoint that says connect to follow European events?
Yep.
Katya? Okay, excellent. All right. So, on a piece of paper, scrap piece of paper in front of you, okay, I want you to try to, again, make like a flow chart with the Renaissance at the top and the Age of Revolutions on the bottom, and try to write connecting words that connect all of these events together, okay? This is a test to see, obviously we're moving back here into European politics and change in Western Europe that's going to affect a lot of the world. So these are large movements. See if you can connect them all together, okay? Give you, let me say, I'll set a timer of 3 minutes here. So if you're writing more than that, you're writing too much. All right, we've got approximately 1 minute and 20 seconds left. Okay, we're gonna do here as a group now. If you're, hopefully you got close to finishing. I'm gonna stop the share for a second, and I'm gonna throw you into breakout rooms of 3 or 4, and I want the person who has person who lives closest distance wise, like if you were to hit a golf club with or a golf ball with a golf club, to North Central is going to be the group leader. Okay, so you guys can figure that out. And I want you just to go over what your answers were and how you think those all connected. We will have 2 groups in the room, and I'm going to give you, say, 5 minutes to discuss this. Okay, go ahead. Okay, make sure your video is turned on, or at least you're not muted if I come in and check on you, or else you're going to lose participation points for today. Okay, we'll make this easy. Brooke, you and Mr. Barker and Miss Kim, you 3 are going to have a little discussion. We'll have the Lilies and a Hiddle have a discussion here, or Lucy, Lily, and Hannah. Okay, go ahead and walk through it. Okay, you guys go that way, you go this way. Come on. What do we have here? Okay, so this first. Huh? Yeah, we'll try. It has to be a reason why. So the recreation board first. Okay, so how does the Renaissance talk about recreation? Okay, good. How does the Reformation impact the board? What was one of the three things? That's one of them. What are the other ones? God. And so, Reformation caused the Catholic Church and Protestants to argument on drugs for their world. How do you think the scientific revolution how do you think the global revolution had an impact on that? The resources, the ideas around the world, in Europe, to decrease the power of the church, the Reformation, cause people to think even more than by science. Okay. What goes next then? Enlightenment. So how does discovery of new scientific achievements like understanding cells, understanding gravity, force, and how does that have an effect on light we learned about yesterday? How what? Okay, so scientific revolution was about how the world works, right? But now you apply that to how the government works. Okay, and then how does that lead to a revolution? Yeah, and then it causes them to have speech, religion, press, a lot of things, but that's again implying what we learned in the natural rights that are defined in science and how we apply them. Okay. You're about 5 minutes. So you guys, since you were talking about middle schoolers and nonsense over there, you can do this. You can explain this to everyone really well.
You were talking about how Muslims were focused in Europe, and then we were talking about how you also like learning about different countries. There's a lot of was centered in Europe, especially. And so then we started talking about Africa. And then middle school came out because we didn't know if we had all different countries. Oh yeah, because middle school, so much about Africa.
Welcome back, Zoomers. Hopefully you had an exhilarating conversation. Kim, Sam Barker, and Brooke Brown and I just destroyed any type of conversation because we were awesome. So shout out to those three. The other people in the room were talking about middle school in Africa. Who knows what in the world they were talking about. So we kept it on. We basically did exactly what we were supposed to do. So I'm proud of them. Anyways, we're now going to move on here, and we're going to focus on, I was being a little sarcastic there. Don't get your feelings hurt, guys, girls. Okay. We're going to focus on this movement known as the Enlightenment. So how does that tie into the scientific revolution and the age of revolution? You probably should have come up with the idea that scientific revolution was about figuring out how the laws of nature worked in science. And then political scientists and philosophers started to try to figure out how the laws of nature should work to humans in their own society. And so once they figured out that basically aristocracy, nobility, absolutism, dictatorship, tyrannical rule, um, even mercantilism was all wrong and not natural. That leads to this thing called the Age of Revolutions, which we're going to move towards to this day. Okay. Am I sharing the correct screen? I hope. No, I'm not. So I'm going to share the screen now with you. Okay, like I meant to be. There we go. It's one of those fun ones. Okay. So hopefully you guys picked up on something like that and said it superbly confidently in front of your peers in your fancy breakout room, as we did in the room here. So the Enlightenment, okay, a movement that really got the seeds were sowed here in this movement known as the Enlightenment by really a couple of different incidents. One incident in England where you had a dictator by the name of Oliver Cromwell, who was a Puritan and a Calvinist. Basically, for about 20 years, was a dictator in England. And after he was ousted, the nobles in England chose to bring back the king, and the king was bad again. And so William and Mary were invited to be the king and queen. William was in the Netherlands. Okay, William of Orange. Orange was a feudal state in the Netherlands, and that started a political movement to start to use the ideas of the scientific revolution to ask yourself, why are you legitimately giving power over somebody who has done absolutely nothing to deserve it? Okay. And so the fancy definition I have up here, which I don't even know. It says in 18th century at 1700s, I told you the seeds were sowed earlier than that though. Philosophical movement that advocated reason as the primary source of authority and legitimacy. That's fancy. All right, what I want everyone to try to do is get a less than 10-word definition for what was the Enlightenment from that definition in their own words. That's your challenge. Zoomers, you can Zoom and try to do this. Oh, we lost somebody. I must have been Jill, yep. Those in the room, we're going to take about 90 seconds to try to do this. Okay, I'm going to do it too. I'm going to use my brain. 18th century. I've got mine. I'm going to write it down actually. Can't you see I'm clearly thinking? Gosh. Let everybody participate. Gosh. I'm down to 14 words. I got to figure out how to get rid of 4 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm close. I got it. All right, type your answers in the response. See if you can get it down to 10 words. I'll give you an example of mine just so that it helps you. Idea that said no one has power without my consent. Which is reasonable, or using reason. So I didn't use reason though. Idea that said no one has power without my consent. All right, see what you got in the room here. Anyone want to share? Ew, my time's flying. Anybody want to share? Let's see, we got a Zoomer here who has given us something to ponder, unless it's about internet going out or something. A movement that taught people about authority and individual thought. Good. Movement that used logic as justification for one's power. Boom, shakalaka. Those are like half-court shots. Big time. Nice job. Anyone here? Lily Dole. Scream it through the high heavens so that they can hear you, if you believe in there's such thing as high heavens. How many words is that? Okay. Anybody else want to take one? Not copy theirs? That's pretty good, Lily. You want to do it?
A political movement for decision based on reason and independent.
Okay, so we had independent reasoning, logic. Good. So, I'm gonna save mine on my piece of paper here for next period, so I don't have to think that hard about it again. Because I just made that up on the spot, 10 words. That's good. All right, so if you haven't posted yours here in the chat box, do so. Let's move on here. So, basic principles of the Enlightenment. What does the word reason mean? You hear people oftentimes say, oh, that's not very reasonable. Well, reason is, it has to be logical. So, nothing can be logical unless it is what, folks? Provable. Exactly. So, you don't have truth or logic without reason, but you don't have reason without truth or logic. You see how they go together? Okay. Nature. This is a tough one. Nature is good. Natural laws of politics and economics will drive nature. See, this is a debatable one. Good, bad. It's very difficult to understand these concepts because when left, let's say a mother is left alone with their child, the mother is starving, inevitably in nature, that mother will eat their child. Okay? If you look at true nature, go look at a pond. Okay? If a mother or father is hungry enough, they're going to go eat their fry. I mean, that's to exist. As when we say nature, we automatically think of humans. We're thinking of all of nature. Okay? But if you want to be in the Enlightenment, you have to believe that there is a possibility for change. And that's a big agent. Okay? That it doesn't have to stay the same. Okay? So you only can believe in that if you believe that nature is inherently good and not bad. Okay? Because Hobbes and Montesquieu definitely didn't have the same, or Hobbes and Locke didn't have the same idea on that. Okay? Happiness. The idea that there is the ability to find this thing called happiness. Okay? Not to take a cheesy line away from Will Smith, but the pursuit of happiness. Okay? Everyone's seen that movie before? It's cute. If you haven't and you're bored, it was on Netflix at least at some point during the COVID crisis here we're living in. But if you follow nature's laws where everyone is compatible and has to exist in the same realm together, you can be happy. Up to this point in history, had people been happy? What do you think, Sam? Absolutely not. Why not, Sam? Not sure. Well, I'll tell you why. Because they hadn't been making any type of decisions for themselves. They were just doing what was told to them. So if you truly live by these new set of laws that they were pondering, the idea that everybody has the opportunity to achieve happiness is possible. Progress is a bit the same thing. Okay? That things can be perfected and you can actually make progress when you understand the nature, that nature can be good and there can be happiness. So that would kind of lead us to, lastly, this whole idea of liberty. Society should be set free. Now, this is a tough one because complete liberty is complete chaos, right? Is it? I don't know. Depends on what you think. I mean, that's, again, some of this stuff is a little bit deep, and it doesn't necessarily go to let's go take psychology class, because then you have to look at the way your brain's wired and all this different stuff. If you look at this metaphorically, though, freedom is, important, but at the same time, if everybody is free, will everybody still be not free? It depends on how you view nature. That's the key. Again, we go back to the same thought. So, that, again, if you're following me here, you'll see that although it sounds simple, that everything's just to be use common sense. What is common sense is not easy to figure out all the time. Okay, because you have to look at more than just yourself. So, here's what we're going to do. Analyze the following quotes, determine who or what the speaker is commenting on. So, who is the speaker digging at? These are digs. These are comments on what's wrong. These are all from famous enlightened thinkers. I'm not going to get in here and play the Enlightenment alphabet soup game where we try to memorize 30 names, because you don't need to for the AP test. When you take AP European history, you can play Enlightenment bingo, but we don't need to do that. We just need to learn conceptual things, okay? So, I do not agree with the word you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. So in your notes, you're probably writing, what is that commentary on? Anybody in the room or Zoom want to unmute or raise your hand? I got it. Looking at everybody. Teaching to the computer and to this room at the same time. Nobody? What's that commentary on? I do not agree with the word you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. Brooke. Yes, but what is that commentary on? Lily. Freedom of speech. People might say something that you don't like, but you know what? They get the right to say it because they are what, Kimberly? People. All right? See what I'm saying? There you go. All right, let's go to number 2. As long as people believe in absurdities, they will continue to commit atrocities. What is that commentary on? Let's let them think for a moment. Just be nice. Yeah. You're over here trying to interrupt me when I'm doing my definition. Come on. Okay, so we got an answer here. What do you think? Okay, so this is correct. The answer was freedom of religion. In reality, this is that the church or the Christian faith overall is wrong because they believe in things that aren't provable, and because of that, there have been lots of atrocities. Remember, Europe went through about 150 years of war, religious war, after Martin Luther's 95 Theses. Everyone remember that whole deal? Peasants' rebellions. Okay, you had the Edict of Nantes, and then you had all sorts of fighting in the French world. You had the 30 Years' War, et cetera, okay? All right, let's take a look at this third one. This gets a little more challenging. God is a comedian Playing to an audience too afraid to laugh. God is a comedian. Playing to an audience too afraid to laugh. What's this commentary on? Again, anyone on the Zoom, feel free to use the hand raise function. Get in on this if you want to. I won't make you do any more breakout rooms, so nobody leave class, please. Okay, God is a comedian, so comedians are supposed to make you laugh. But he's playing to an audience that's too afraid to laugh. What do people need to do? Think for themselves, question religion, question Christianity until they make it what is their own. I like how Owen put Renaissance here. Yeah, it's about power, but it's about understanding why and how something has power over you and accepting it as an individual versus just doing what everyone else does because everyone else is doing it. All right, we got a couple more here. This is an interesting quote here. I believe this is Voltaire, but we're not getting into names too much here. Man will never be free until the last king is strangled with the entrails of the last priest. If you don't know what entrails are, those are your intestines, the long tubes inside of your body. So man will never be free until the last king is strangled with the entrails of the last priest. That is very aggressive, to take a line from the movie Rounders. Yes.
Is this just so for government for one to be more democratic, but also move away from monarchy, but also move away from having
So we have a thought here, and that is that you need to eliminate the power of the church on the government, and you need to also eliminate absolute monarchy at the same time. Is this revolutionary thought? Yes. Yes, it is. All right. Strengthen the female mind by enlarging it, and there will be an end to blind obedience. Virtue can only flourish among equals. What do we think we're looking at here? Strengthen the female mind by enlarging it, and there will be an end to blind obedience. Virtue can only flourish amongst equals, or among equals. What's another? What's this looking at? What social problem is this trying to address? Okay, Brooke. Okay, equality for men and women. Okay, this is Mary Wollstonecraft. And the idea that this virtue is a big word for the Enlightenment philosophers, okay? And virtuousness is like what's right. And so what's right will only happen when everybody is actually equal. So while this is a quote aimed at equality amongst sexes or genders, this is also, you use this as end of slavery, abolish slavery, etc. Okay, yes. Yeah, if you don't start educating women to the same extent that you educate men, you're never going to have a truly virtuous society or equal society. Which I think some of you in the room and some of you on Zoom are starting to probably go, wow, Mr. Brunette, a lot of this still rings true in the year 2020. Oh, yes, it does. That's why I like talking about this stuff. It's actually interesting. All right, here's the next one. I like it. It's not from the benevolence. That means out of the goodness of the heart of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner from their regard to their own interest. What is that trying to say? Sam, come on, man. What do you think? It's not from the good-hearted nature of the butcher, the brewer. So the butcher makes your meat for you. The brewer gives you your beer. The baker makes your rolls and even maybe a little after dinner dessert. They don't do that out of the goodness of their heart, but they do it out of their own interest. What do you think this is a shot at? Someone on the Zoom, it was Jackson, made a very astute comment here. I'm going to tell you all, because he said it privately to me. They just make food because it make money. It gets them their bread. All right. Sorry. Dad joke. All right. So, yeah, it's exactly what it means, though, is they don't make the beer and the meat and the bread for you. They make it because that's what they do well, and that's what makes them money, and that's how they live. Okay? And so this is a quote from Adam Smith, the father of capitalism, or supply and demand. Okay? And the idea of laissez-faire economics. All right. Let's move on, though. Okay, I can't spend all day on this. Trust me, I love to if we had a normal year. We don't. So, impact. The Enlightenment is going to cause revolutions, many, many revolutions. Okay, let's talk, the French Revolution, the American Revolution, the Haitian Revolution. Those are some of the obvious ones. But it's significantly a major player in the Latin American Revolution movements, in the fight for equality. Okay, you could argue and easily tie it to the Black Lives Matter movement or the Chinese Revolution in post-World War II, to basically anyone arguing for social change and justice. Everyone understand this? Okay, and that's why it's still alive. Belief in social and human progress, the idea that things can get actually better. And we're not going to live through another 500 years of serfdom. Okay? Imagine also that I know I had people in the class here arguing that this is all Western European philosophy, but I'm going to argue that this is world philosophy here, because the Enlightenment just hits different places around the world at different times. In some places, it's still hitting hard today. If that makes sense. Okay? Universal education. Okay? So regardless of if you're lower class or, caste lists, if we want to talk about a caste society, etc., it's all the same. Okay? But I think you guys get the point. This third one's a big one. Secular outlook in Europe. And this is how Europe is to this day. And that means secular, if you guys remember, means worldly. Sacred means godly or holy. And so now Europe is going to question whether the church was actually right. Faith becomes an individual thing, not something that is forced on someone. And after the age of the Enlightenment, that's when you're going to see a lot more discovery and progress in things like social Darwinism, evolution, etc. Okay? Oh, yeah. Yes. All right. And then kind of adding to that point is the individual, the importance of the individual, which this whole class started off with the Renaissance and the idea that the individual was important. Well, now we get to this idea that the individual is important. They can judge right and wrong for themselves. They can decide to do what they want with their money. They can decide who they want to vote for. And they don't need to be told what to do. All right, so I hope everybody is on the same thought pattern with me. Those of you that have your screens staring up at the wall, Really hope you're paying attention. It'd be cool if you were, because this is a good lesson. All right, we're gonna move on then. So we're gonna take a little bit closer look at France, okay, as our model in how the Enlightenment is going to affect basically the most successful European nation up until 1750. There are 3 estates in France. The first estate was made up of anybody who had a position within the church, known as the clergy. The second estate was anybody of noble status, whether they had their positions given to them by King Louis XIV or whether they had traditional noble status from their family. The third estate then was everybody else. A rhetorical question. Was there a check on the king's power in France? I think most of you know that no, there was not. Okay, and so this group of people who had representatives from each estate, known as the Estates General, was not equal to the English Parliament. Okay, if you remember right, the Magna Carta was a powerful document. I told you we would go back to it in 1215, and that's when the English Parliament gained power over the king. Well, the king never had to call the Estates General to power ever, and each estate only got 1/3 of the vote when they did meet. What's that mean? Well, the first 2 estates, because they are directly intertwined together and basically family, are always going to vote against the third estate. And a gentle reminder, Louis XIV established the model for absolute monarchy. Remember the Palace of Versailles, the Sun King, because everything that he touched turned to gold. Now, not really. Metaphorically, though, yes. So make sure we're not. We got time. We're doing well. Okay. So, no checks on the king's power, unlimited, or absolute monarchy. There's this body that's supposed to be called together to help advise the king, but it was antiquated, old, outdated, and did not have to be called. All right, so here's the issue. What's wrong with this picture that we're seeing in front of us? Maybe this is called is this a bar graph? Look at that. 1 for 1 on math terms today. Let's go. All right. So commoners, that's the third estate. Nobility is the second estate. Clergy is the first estate. Somebody point out to me the disgusting inequality here. Yes. Yes, but that doesn't get at the root of the main problem here. One that's just outstanding. It's glaring. What's that? What do you think? Yeah.
Oh, well, of course it doesn't. I'm saying the majority of the population is all
Taxation. The third estate pays 100% of the taxes, but they only control like 65% of the land. That's not fair, is it?
Yeah, but neither the entire population. No, but that's just
Yeah, but it shows you that 3% of the population owns 30-some% of the land. Yet they don't pay a single penny of taxes on it. You're trying to tell me that that's reasonable?
I mean, no, but neither
Common sense? Is there any logic in that?
Yeah, he wasn't.
No. So everyone on Zoom, you guys get that? Kaylee, can I get a thumbs up? Do you understand that? Good. Good. All right, we're going to move on then. Let's talk about the first estate. Okay, 10 to 15% of the land, maybe, a percentage of the population at most. They held all their lands tax-free. They got to collect tithes from the third estate. It was still mandatory, and their power was basically given to them by the Catholic Church, and then at the same time from the king as well. And it still was to be part of the clergy. You still were basically It was a good old boys club. Okay. You had to be in favor with the king and the pope in order to get a position. Okay. Again, if you're listening and kind of understanding this, you don't need to be worrying too much about writing everything down as long as you're with me. Okay. The second estate then is this nobility. Okay. And there were two kinds of nobility. There was nobility that King Louis XIV had made his own tax collectors, if you remember right. And he actually made his own army. But then there was also the ancient nobility that had been noble for like 1,000 years or 800 years at this point. And they owned a vast majority of, 20% of the land, but yet only made up maybe a 1.5% or 2% of society. So that's a lot of land. They also did not pay taxes on it, and they got to tax the peasants that basically rented lands from them. So what that meant was they made out like bandits in this situation. And so the rich get richer. You know, they're the people that are able to buy stock in, trading companies. They're able to take risks to make more money. So that is the second estate. The third estate then is a collection of what's known as the bourgeoisie, the peasants, and the urban workers. Okay? So you have 97 and 98% of the population, but they pay all of the taxes, and yet the bourgeoisie is this burgeoning middle class that has zero political say. Okay? With the growth of the French Empire came money. And so the bourgeoisie, you guys have heard of the word before, so call someone bougie. It means that they're flashy on the outside, but they don't have much on the inside. And the bourgeoisie here, in this instance in France, had land, they had money, they even had degrees, lawyers, doctors, dentists, shop owners. But at the same time, they had zero political say and no voice. And so, applying what we learned the first 25 minutes of class, you probably understand that this is unreasonable. It's wrong. Okay? For the peasantry, they took it even worse. Not only did they own a decent chunk of land, but they had to pay taxes to the nobility, they had to pay taxes to the church, and then they had to pay taxes to the king as well. So there's no ability to get up, and there is really no ability to voice your opinion, because if the States General was called, they had no power, because it's equal vote for each estate. So 2 to 3% of the population outvotes 97% of the population. Is that just? Is that fair? Is that logical? Is that reasonable? No. A lot of different ways to say that. All right. So we can get to Mr. I don't know how to speak French, so I don't even try. Okay, but we get the rise of the third estate here. Okay. Usually we emphatically read this out loud. I have a student helper here who I probably made read it just to mess with her. Did you have to read this last year? That's probably what she was doing last year too. All right. Whoops. Okay, so I'm gonna read I'll be the reader. You guys have to give the response. You ready? You ready? All right, here we go. What is the third estate? That was weak. We're going to try it again. Those of you on Zoom, just act as if you're here in heart. What is the third estate? What has it been in the political order?
Nothing.
What does it demand?
Become something.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's what they sound like, everyone on Zoom. Oh, all right. We'll come back to reciting this if we have any extra time in the future. You have to be aggressive. You can't have a bloody revolution by going like this all the time. Because you're speaking behind a mask. All right. We're gonna stop there though. I think you guys understand the issue in France. And what I'm gonna do is pull up your homework here, which is really not too challenging, but important for us to do tonight to be ready for tomorrow. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change the screen share. Should make the most sense. I'm now going to put it on our homework. And the homework tonight's going to start like this. So you'll see there's 17 clauses. Okay? This is the preamble right here, which I want you to read as well. And then I want you to read the articles. This is the Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen, which is essentially the French version of the Declaration of Independence, okay? What I want you to do is read this. Make a note of Enlightenment philosophy ideas present in the document. What are Enlightenment philosophy ideas? All the things that we talked about in the first half hour of class, okay? And then just collect your ideas in a text box and put it on Canvas, because I'm not going to make you mark up the document like you would if you were in class, because that's what you really should do. Okay? We can even look at the first article. Men are born and remain free and equal in rights. Social distinctions may be founded only upon the general good. So what is this advocating for? Eliminating social classes. So get rid of the 3 estates, political freedom. Yeah, okay. And then there's all sorts of cool ideas in the preamble as well. So that's due by, I believe I wrote 11 o'clock or noon tomorrow, which means I want you to do it tonight. Take you 15 minutes, maybe. We have a question, quickly. What do you mean it won't load? What about if you upload it as a Google document? Can you try that real quick? Why? Okay. Zoomers, you got to go to your next class. I'll try to figure out how to make this work a little smoother. Thank you for your participation today. Have this done by tomorrow, 11 o'clock. Bye-bye.